Welcome back to the Real Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and as always, I'm excited to be here with you today. I want to talk about something that the Yankees really need to accomplish this postseason, and I'm really just upset about what happened last night. And I really do love my Yankees Cup, but I really felt like smashing the hell out of it last night. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about what the Yankees did wrong this season, what they need to do to fix the problems with the team this season, and then what they can do next season to be able to get to where they need to be, which is a World Series championship team. And since the Yankees acquired Arron Boone about 4 years ago, honestly, the team has digressed each time. We were doing pretty good. We were one win away from making it to the World Series. We got screwed there. The next season, we win the wild card game, but we get stopped again. And then this season, we lose the wild card game. And each season, we're just doing a little bit worse than the previous one. And that's an issue. And a lot of the issues I mentioned with the actual wild card game were directed at Boone. I think a lot of the calls he was making and a lot of the shots he was making were just not accurate and they're not good decision. And he got outmanaged last night. I got to hand it to Alex Cora. I don't like the guy, but I mean, he is a better manager and he was able to outmanage Boone last night. So, I mean, hats off to him, I guess. You got to just give it to him. I'm a diehard Yankees fan at heart, but I'm also a diehard baseball fan, and the Red Sox did play better baseball yesterday, and the Yankees deserve to go home as a loser. That's just how it is, and I think they really need to see what they did wrong, really rewatch that game and rewatch their whole entire season and figure out a couple pieces they need to put together to really be the team they thought they were going to be this year. I think if you're the Yankees, there's a couple guys that you really need to get and a couple guys you really need to let go. So let's talk about the guys we really need to let go. I think Luke Voit is a guy that really needs to be let go because for a couple reasons. Number one, he's very injury prone. He's always getting injured, and that's really why we acquired Anthony Rizzo. Also, Luke Voit is a pretty average first baseman. He's not spectacular. By no means is he bad either. And then his hitting he's a home run hitter, but he's not very consistent. And although you can argue he did have I think a 59 or something home run season. He led the American League in home runs like a couple years ago. And that's very true, that he was a very good hitter, and I still think he is a good hitter, but I don't think he's getting the attention he needs, and I don't think he fits into the Yankee lineup. I think we either need to re-sign Rizzo or find another first baseman. Another pitcher I think we need to let go is Corey Kluber. He's never really had the longevity. He's never been able to play the long game, especially since after he got injured. He's never really been the same player, and the last game he played before his injury was when he pitched the no-hitter, but since then, he's given up a lot of home runs, a lot of hits, hasn't been productive, his location hasn't really been there, and he overall just hasn't been an excellent pitcher since then, and he hasn't really ever been a spectacular pitcher in general for us. And this one hurts to say, and a lot of diehard Yankee fans that are watching this might get mad at me, but they might be like, okay, I understand your point. And somebody that I think needs to be let go, or he might even retire, I'm not 100% sure, is Brett Gardner. Brett Gardner, he's a veteran on the team. He's been there through it all, and I really do love Brett Gardner. But he's, I believe, 38 years old. He's not getting any younger, and he's just getting a little bit slower. His arm's pretty worn out, and his hitting is subpar. He's a below-average hitter now. Even though he did have a lot of clutch hits and clutch runs and catches and stuff towards the end of the season that really did matter, overall, that doesn't justify him being at center field. I think you need to put somebody else in center field. And I think that's something you definitely need to look out for. Okay, and here's another one that's interesting. I want to talk about Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo, we acquired him with Rizzo at the same time pretty much. And Joey Gallo, honestly, he's a home run hitter, but he hasn't been hot at all. He's actually been pretty ice cold. He hasn't really done much for us offensively. But what I will say is he has an amazing arm, and he is a really good left fielder. He's in top 5 ranks for best arm in the outfield. So he's definitely an amazing defensive outfielder with a great arm, and that you can't take away from him. But just his unproductive at-bats really kind of hold him back. And I don't know if he's somebody that we can continue to play at left field and not really get any productivity out of him in terms of offense. And last, but certainly not least on my list, is Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez, I have a lot of issues with. Number one, he's not a defensive catcher. He's actually very terrible defensively as a catcher. He's not good at framing pitches. but he does have a good arm and he's able to throw out a lot of runners. So I will give him that. But he's also not very good, and he doesn't very rarely does he go to the mound and actually talk with the pitchers when they're struggling, or kind of just looks into the dugout and is like, yo, you need to help me out here. Like, he doesn't really know how to take initiative, and he just doesn't really know how to handle those situations too well. And another thing is he's kind of a slumping hitter. He hits home runs here and there, he gets a couple doubles here and there. But overall, it's kind of the same story with what I was talking about with Joey Gallo. I mean, you get a couple home runs here and there, but it doesn't justify the amount of strikeouts and unproductivity at the plate. So, in my opinion, Gary Sanchez definitely needs to go. Now, let me talk about a couple players I think the Yankees should really build on during the postseason. I think Jonathan Loaisiga is a great option. I think he's honestly an amazing relief pitcher or closer, however you want to put him. I think he genuinely could be the next Mariano Rivera, and I know that's a hard legacy to live up to. And just saying that is like, wow, like you really think that. But I really do. He's young. He's an extremely phenomenal pitcher. And I think he has a lot of potential, and he already has potential. And I think you could just keep working on him and keep perfecting him. I think he's an excellent player, and I think that he could really be the difference between losing and winning a lot of games this season. The next player I want to talk about is Garrett Cole, which is going to be a little controversial. You can't take it away from him. He went 16-8 during his regular season, which is nothing to laugh about. I think he just fell short from a Cy Young, but he's definitely he was a contender for the Cy Young. And you can't take that away from him. He is a phenomenal pitcher, regardless of the whole, crackdown on foreign substances. Regardless of any of that, just being the way he is a phenomenal pitcher. And yes, once he got injured, he did have a setback, and he did underperform, and he didn't help us yesterday in the wild card game. He let up 3 runs early, which is a problem, but I think if he's able to rest during the offseason and really just work on his mechanics and get that mentality back, I think he's going to continue to be a phenomenal pitcher, so I wouldn't worry much about it. Another player I think we should really talk about is Luis Severino. Severino's been there, and he was a phenomenal starting pitcher for us. He was our ace at the time, and he's honestly been lights out for us. He's been phenomenal. And I can't really recall all the statistics on him, but I watch every game, almost every inning of every game, and every time I've seen him since he's returned after almost 2 years, he's been phenomenal. And yeah, he had a little slip up in the wild card game, but honestly, he was still more productive than pretty much anybody else that pitched, besides maybe Clay Holmes. But Chad Green wasn't really impressed by him last night. Cole definitely wasn't impressed by him last night. And I think there's just a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes that they couldn't afford to make, and they did, and that's what sucks. But they lost, and they need to learn from that, and they need to build, and this is what I'm trying to say. This is the things we need to do. A couple other players, I'm not going to go too into depth about them, but a couple other players, Giancarlo Stanton. Stanton was a phenomenal in the postseason. He was shy of maybe 2 or 3 home runs last night at the wild card game. One he got. The second one was about a foot away from being a home run. And the third one was also very close. And just because it was the Green Monster, it's a little hard to get it over there, because if you don't hit it perfectly, you got to get it up and over, because even though it's only 340 feet, maybe even less, even though it's not that far, you still have to hit it over that monster. So you have to hit it farther than 340 feet, if you know what I'm trying to say. So he's a phenomenal player. He's been phenomenal, honestly, for the last quarter of the season, since probably about August, I would say. He's been really lights out, and he's been incredible, and he's come in clutch, and if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even have got to the wild card game. So hats off to Giancarlo Stanton. He's been outstanding, and I think he should definitely be here next season. And if you asked me that in the beginning of the season, I would have just looked at you and said, are you fucking nuts? But no, I think he deserves a spot on this team. I think he deserved his pinstripes. Now, talking about somebody who really deserved his pinstripes, and he's already had his pinstripes, in my opinion. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge has been phenomenal this entire season. He's put up great numbers, finished with, I think, 38 or 39 home runs, finished with about 98 RBIs, and just overall played amazing baseball defensively and offensively this season. So he's somebody you need to re-sign if you're the Yankees, because he's an icon, and what I'm about to say you might not. If anybody's going to ever be called captain again, I believe Aaron Judge is going to be the next captain of the Yankees, because, and I don't even think Derek Jeter would even try to like argue something about that. Not that he has any say over it, but you know what I mean? Like out of respect, like Judge really has that presence that I felt when Jeter was playing for the Yankees. So if anybody's going to get that title, it's definitely going to be Aaron Judge. And then last on my list is Anthony Rizzo. Since we acquired him, offensively, he's been decent. I want to say decent. He hasn't been spectacular, but he's definitely not been bad whatsoever. He's come in clutch in some big situations. Defensively, he's amazing. He's a Gold Glove winner, several time Gold Glove winner. He's a phenomenal athlete, and but he is getting older, so you need to take that into consideration. But I think he's worthy of getting re-signed. And there's a couple options if you don't want to re-sign him. I would look at maybe Matt Olson. Or there's a couple other people I can't really think of off the top of my head, but there's a couple other people that would really be another phenomenal option for first base on the Yankees. Here's a couple more players that I really think the Yankees may have a shot at getting that I think that would benefit them a lot. We're going to need, if we don't re-sign Rizzo, we're going to need a first baseman. That's number one. We're going to need a center fielder, a good center fielder to replace Brett Gardner. And so that we could, if Joey Gallo is still remaining in that lineup, that we could move him back to right field. Because even though he played left field for the Yankees, he always, on the Rangers, was playing right field. And that's where he's really home at. So I think that's where you put him. You put Judge in left field. Or you have Judge play center field. But I don't want to put that kind of strain. He's huge, and you need somebody that's going to be faster than Judge to play center field. I wouldn't put that kind of pressure on Judge. So you're going to need somebody there. So here's a couple people that off the top of my head that I could really think of being good for the Yankees. So I would say Matt Olson. I would say Trevor Story, Robbie Ray. Controversial again, Cody Bellinger. He's been phenomenal, but this season he really digressed, and he hasn't really been phenomenal this season. His numbers have been tremendously down. And he's just had an off season, but I think he's totally still savable because he's only 26 years old. He's still in his prime, and I think you just get him working on those mechanics again, get him in the new clubhouse, and you got a solid player that I think is going to be there for a while. Let me just recap really quick about everything I think. I think the Yankees need to address their lineup, address everybody, managing, players, everybody, figure out who they need to keep, who they need to get rid of, who they need to acquire this offseason, and really, really think about that management, because I really do believe we had a World Series champion team. I really do. I think we could have got to the World Series, but I think the management is really what held us from succeeding the way we wanted to. So I think you get rid of Boone, a couple other players in there. Cashman starts working his shit out and just actually making good choices. And I think you got a solid team, and I think you're going to actually have a good season. And I think next season we will have a good chance at getting there. I'd love to see Buck Showalter be manager. I know he's old. He probably wouldn't do it. But Buck, he knows everything about the Yankees. He has managing experience. He is older, and he sees everything as an outsider, too, because he's always commentating and giving his opinions on yes. So, I don't know. I'd love to see him be manager. I think that would be great. Anything's better than Boone, to be honest with you, and I think Buck would be great. There's a couple other options too, but I'm not really going to dive too deep into those today. But if you enjoyed the video, it would mean the world if you dropped a like on it. Hit that subscribe button because you never want to miss a video. And if you like this video, please comment down below because I'm doing a bunch of different podcast ideas to see what people like the most. So crime, music, entertainment, baseball, sports in general, politics, whatever it is. Real talk especially. But yeah, just leave some comments down below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. I appreciate you all. Love you all. We'll catch you in the next one. Let's go Yanks. Let's go Yanks.